Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Courtside Soundoff podcast. Once again, I'm Josh Evanoff. As always, welcome by the one and only man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. It is Angel Ortega. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Obviously, Jake Paul, Anderson Silva, UC Vegas 63, UC Vegas 64, as well as some MMA news. Before we get into that, I got a couple of sponsors to talk to you guys about. As always, we're brought to you by Rogue Energy. If you want 10% off your order at RogueEnergy.com, use the code SOUNDOFF at checkout. Code SOUNDOFF at checkout for 10% off of all your energy needs. You know, I've kind of talked about them on the show. They're always very, very helpful with, getting a good workout in. I understand that's kind of like not their main thing, but they do sell that sort of stuff as well. So that's what I use it for. But like I said, holidays are coming up. If you want to get yourself some Rogue Energy or get someone who likes some Rogue Energy, code SOUNDOFF for 10% off. Other sponsors of the show, there's a new sponsor. This is ELYXR. If you've been wanting to get into the Delta 8, market, you kind of wanted to try, but you're not really sure about it, ELYXR.com is where you're going to want to go. They sell vapes, gummies, joints, and gels, among other things. Please check your local laws in order to ensure that you're in a state where ELYXR can ship to you. And for fans of the Courtside Soundoff podcast, ELYXR is allowing 10% off with the code SOUNDOFF at checkout. I honestly use these gummies for sleep a lot of the time. I can personally tell you they are very high quality. You can go ahead and try it out yourself with code SOUNDOFF for 10% off. Normally we'll go ahead and start off with MMA, but instead we're going to go ahead and hit the biggest event of the weekend. Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva went down on Showtime pay-per-view last Saturday from the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. Look, man, I think that of all the ways this fight could go, this is Jake Paul by unanimous decision is not the way that anybody saw it going. He ends up winning on the card 77-74, 78-73, 78-73. I think most people are kind of in agreement that those scorecards are terrible. However, outside of a couple of upset MMA fans or people that are just dislike Jake Paul, there's not really any question as to who won on Saturday. Jake, honestly, his team had a great game plan. There were times where Anderson Silva was just styling on him. He was kind of showing the gap in boxing experience and boxing skill, especially whenever Anderson went on the offense. But what was kind of like the second half of Anderson's career in the UFC? He just was not active enough. And in here, he had a lot of rounds where like he just let him slip away because he was not active enough. And Jake Paul used a good job landing to the body, even getting a knockdown in the 8th round to seal the fight. In the end, it's by far the most impressive win of his career, also the most entertaining fight of his career. But Angel, what do you think about the result? How impressed were you by Jake Paul? And give me your thoughts on the fight.
Look, we both had picked Anderson, but the night of, and I've told you this now that when we were in the green room, I was telling you, hey, I'm not going to lie to you. The night of, I changed my mind, but I didn't want to switch the pick. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed, and from what you told me, it looked like you had some similar thoughts too. Obviously, there was some money at play for you, so that's why your mind was in a different place at the time. But it is what it is, right? Life happens. The result, though, I mean, it's the right result. Let's not get it twisted. I had it 77-74, but I could have honestly given Anderson another round, which would have made it 76-75. So it was a close bout, man.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, but the knockdown ended up sealing the deal. And I even texted you before. I'm like, I could see this being either a Jake split, maybe even like a questionable draw, and then the knockdown happened. I'm like, oh, this is Jake's match. Yeah. It's his fight. And like you said, probably the most entertaining bout in Jake's in his time of boxing. And for Anderson, another stellar and fun and entertaining match out of him, man. What could you ask out of a legend? I mean, continuing to do legend shit at his advanced age, looking good. I mean, I think we gotta give a lot of credit to the man who, in a way, really made this event be as big as it could be. And it's no disrespect to Jake, but a legend like Anderson Silva, deciding to take him on and looking the way he did and looking great that was honestly amazing. And I mean, and look, in the end, the result didn't go his way. We knew that was a possibility. Jake ended up getting a nice little victory. The MMA community could be as mad as they want to be, but there's no question about it. Jake Paul won that match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I had the scoring different than you. I had the fight 4-4, but obviously Jake with the knockdown ended up, winning on my scorecard. you can find 4 rounds for Anderson. I don't think you can find 5. I think this is a pretty clear case of like, there's like a wide range of scores you can like get for this fight. You know what I mean? I think you can give Jake, honestly, like, obviously rounds 1, rounds 8, clear for Jake, I thought. Rounds 4, and I believe there was one other clear Anderson round. I can't remember which round it was, but there were a couple of clear rounds for Anderson. But outside of that, it was like Jake was kind of pot-shotting, and then Anderson would flurry within the last 45 seconds. Very close rounds. Yeah, a very, very close round there. So if you want to give Anderson 4 rounds, sure. I don't think you can give him 5, and if you do, you're being very, very lenient. If you give... I thought the judging was pretty wide, but honestly, like, it didn't really matter. They got the right result. Look, man, I gotta admit, I've been very, very clear about the fact that I've enjoyed the Jake Paul saga so far, but I've never really liked the fact that, like, he does kind of pick on, smaller, older, out of their prime, out of his weight class fighters. This is the first time where he kind of stepped up. And Anderson's 47, yes, but he has experience of a pro boxer. He's won professional boxing matches. Jake's probably bigger in terms of weight, but barely. I mean, they met in the middle at 187. Anderson fights at 185. Jake Paul fights at 190, although he said he's trying to go down in weight. They met in the middle, 187. He beat him. No complaints. Like, you can't say anything bad about this win. That's just that for Jake's skill set, where he's at, that was super impressive. It was interesting. I walked away from this fight. I did not feel like Jake Paul was the better boxer, but I'll tell you what, he had a great game plan, and that kid has a dog in him. Like, there were many times that he was getting caught clean. Whenever Anderson honestly threw combinations, he was throwing big combinations. He was landing most of those punches, but Jake fought on. He landed some huge uppercuts. Jake fought on. So, just overall, a super impressive win for him. Now we kind of move forward, and this is where I don't like things. After the fight, Jake calls out Nate Diaz and Canelo again. He called out both of them after his win over Woodley, too. But regardless, Nate and him got into an altercation. Not Nate and him, but Nate got into an altercation with somebody from Jake's team backstage after Chris Avila, who we'll talk about later, got a win. Look, man, give me your interest level in that fight. I gotta be honest with you, I don't give a flying fuck about that fight. That fight is not appetizing to me in the slightest.
Would you be more interested in Uriah Hall versus Jake Paul?
Yes.
Do you think Uriah has a good chance?
No, I'd give Uriah probably like a 20% chance of beating Jake. I give Nate a single digit,
5%.
maybe 5% chance, probably. I mean, I think the reality is that Nate is fat at 170. Not fat necessarily, but he's out of he's carrying too much weight at 170. He's a 155er. He's going to fight Jake up at 185, 190. I mean, like...
And I doubt they'll want to push it down to like 180. That's a fat weight cut for Jake.
Yeah, I mean, and Nate's never boxed before. He's older. It just feels like such a...
But Josh, he's sparred with Andre Ward.
Here's the thing, is Nate probably would have been a good boxer 10 years ago. Maybe not even 10, 6 years ago. But he's been out of his prime for probably 3 years now, 4 years now. Hasn't won a fight since 2019. Well, excuse me. He just beat Tony, but prior to that, he hadn't won a fight since 2019. Had he fought Hamzat, he would have gotten annihilated. So, kind of got a bit lucky.
Jake get finished, man.
Yeah, I mean...
Like that, at least.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, I mean, like, am I crazy here? I mean, do you have any interest in that one?
Like not a lot, like somewhat, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, I really don't know what the next thing for Jake is, right? I mean, it's all kind of... Because he's in that position where he needs to fight, and you said it earlier, where he needs to fight, like, somewhat relevant, like, important names in some capacity, have power behind him, or some draw behind him. But still, obviously, for Jake and him, competitive, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, because I'd honestly rather see Jake versus...
Oh my god, you're going to say it.
I'd rather see Jake versus Tommy Fury or
KSI.
I do. I'm just saying, from a competitive standpoint, I think both, even Jake versus Tommy Fury, Jake versus KSI, Jake versus, I mean, I don't even know who would, Uriah Hall. I mean, I feel like the Nate Diaz fight, it's not interesting in the slightest. I understand why they're doing it, because it would make money, but even the betting odds have come out, and it's like Jake's like a 3-1 favorite, and that like it's definitely gonna rise. I just don't see it even being very competitive.
I mean, apparently there's some interest in the Tommy fight, but it's crazy because I feel like a lot of guys who've been keeping up, and especially the MMA community, are not interested in that Tommy Fury fight at all.
Yeah, well, because they have no vested interest in Tommy Fury. And I think most people think Tommy Fury is kind of a joke in a way, because he comes from this legendary family. His brother is a champion, and I don't know if he shares any relation to Huey Fury. I don't know if they have the same. I don't really know a whole lot about their association, but like there's another Fury out there that's like a world championship contender, like, and then it's just Tommy Fury. Like he's there. He's undefeated, sure, but like, you know, we know he has 1 foot in, 1 foot out of boxing. That's just kind of how it is, you know? So he's kind of a joke in that aspect. And he's pulled out twice, although granted one of those wasn't his fault. But, yeah, like I said, dude, I'd much rather see the Tommy fight. I'd rather see the KSI fight, Uriah Hall. I feel like we'll talk about Uriah in a minute, but I thought he did a good job on Saturday of getting himself into that conversation. Not as like a leading contender, but like as a backup guy. Where like if something happens with Nate, like maybe he'll get the call, and I gotta be honest with you, man. I actually got a gut feeling that he will not fight Nate Diaz next.
Oh, I'm on the same boat.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go ahead and happen. Just by virtue of the fact that right now, Nate is still within his 90-day clause, I believe. Because UFC, there are a couple of contract things that they're able to do. They never do these, but they reserve the right to be the sole person you can negotiate with for 90 days, and then for a year after that point, they can match any contract offer. So I think there's a very good possibility that they'll either end up matching whatever offer Jake gives to Nate, or they'll just wait out the year exclusivity period, and Jake won't be able to fight him until next December or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, but so I'm glad that you agree with me. So that asks the question: who will Jake Paul fight next?
I mean, it's probably a toss-up between. I mean, Tommy Fury's still the big one, right? I mean, there's history there. Obviously, we talked about JJ because they've been going back and forth. They've been talking about doing it at what the. I mean, didn't they even talk potentially about a stadium show between them two?
They said Wembley next year.
Which, I mean, is it impossible?
No, it's not at all. They can probably, even if they want to like tarp off sections, I feel like they could sell probably 70,000.
They could sell pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, with that, if they get the right promotion, I mean, it would have to be some sort of Crow promotion thing, right?
Yeah, because KSI is with the Zone and Jake is with Showtime.
Which, I mean, monsters in boxing, right? I mean, let's be honest, right? Like they would market this very well.
Yeah.
And then they would have to build a banger of an undercard, which would get fans going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the KSI fight will happen next. My prediction is that fight probably happens next summer. I think next summer in Wembley.
You think there's still hope for? I don't know. I feel like we need to see JJ one more time. Which, I mean, apparently we're going to see JJ again. We don't know when.
In January.
But there's been no rumblings. We should have got some sort of announcement by now. I mean, we're only 2 months away now.
That's true. That is true. I feel like I heard something that he's going to announce it soon, within the next month or so. But I don't know. Yeah, man. I got a feeling that he's not going to fight Nate next. I don't think he'll fight KSI next. But I think KSI will probably end up fighting in January, just considering they said that's the plan for so long. I feel like they know who the opponent is. They just haven't announced yet, or they have they're deep in negotiations with somebody. I feel like.
I wonder if it could be, though. It has to be someone relevant.
I mean, it could just be Wasabi again, honestly.
Oh, you think they're trying to do that?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I know that they went ahead and said that he's never going to fight him and yada yada yada, but I don't know, man. We'll see. I
mean, there's no clear option. It's hard to predict these things with these guys who aren't pros. Like they're pros, but not world title chasing pros. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who it's gonna be.
The mystery. We're definitely gonna have to keep our eyes and ears open and make sure that we stay on top of it. I mean, I think Tommy Fury is always going to be an option, right? Because I think to an extent, I mean, the history will always be there.
Yeah, I think here's my prediction. He'll either fight Uriah Hall or fight Tommy Fury next. And Jake said he wants to be active. That's part of why I'm saying that. If he just wanted to, if you were just in it for, the money, you didn't really give a shit, I could see him waiting.
Well, the thing is also, he's main eventing everything, so I don't know if they would want to do Uriah this time, because he's going from Anderson Silva, legend, former champ, and no hate to Uriah, but then to Uriah Hall, who was good, or, is still good, let's not say was, is still good, but doesn't have a world champion, achievement under his belt and stuff like that, where at least Tyrod and Anderson did, and obviously Anderson has legend status.
Mm-hmm. By the way, one quick thing. The rumor is that KSI he's gonna box Joe Fournier.
Wow.
That's the rumor.
Joe wasn't bad.
No, he's not. He's not bad at all.
He's pretty good. I mean, until his homie started teeing off on him, who was
he's undefeated, technically, because I think the Hay fight was an exhibition. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think KSI's bigger than him. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I just feel like if Jake wants to be active, and actually, it's time to move on to Uriah Hall. Because I mentioned him being a guy that could fight Jake next. He was one of the guys that opened up the card. He beat Le'Veon Bell. Now, I thought Le'Veon did pretty good for his, where he's at. And I said that going in. I thought people were going to be surprised. He landed some clean shots. He had a pretty good game plan of trying to slow down Uriah with that jab to the body. It's just Uriah Hall, when he moved forward and started throwing punches, he landed heavy, dude. He landed some huge shots. Le'Veon Bell has a chin on him.
I mean, credit to Le'Veon too, because Uriah even complimented. He's like, he hit me pretty fucking hard.
That right hand, I believe at the end of the third round, wobbled Uriah. He landed that, Le'Veon went to the body with a jab and then came over the top with the right. Uriah didn't see it coming and he tagged him. That was probably the biggest moment of the fight. Or one of the biggest moments.
I remember that. I was like, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. But Uriah wins on the cards pretty easy. I think Le'Veon maybe won one round, but that's about it. He moves to 1-0 as a pro boxer, and then he gets on the mic. He says, "If Anderson doesn't do it, Jake Paul, I'm gonna fuck you up." And I thought he had a good call out. Uriah Hall could be a pretty scary guy, but he wants to be. I thought he did a good job, not at becoming a leader in the Jake Paul discussion, but he's putting his name out there and he's doing the right things he needs to. He won on the undercard, had I thought it was an entertaining fight. People hated it on Twitter.
It was all right. It had its moments.
It wasn't crazy, but it wasn't bad either, I thought.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, he did a good job getting himself out there. I mean, what do you think of his performance and ultimately his call-out? Do you give him any shot of possibly securing that bag and getting the Jake Paul fight?
I mean, let me tell you this. It was a bit rough. It was a bit rough around the edges. I think he'll clean it up with time, right? Though, I mean, it's his first camp, short notice, And, he probably, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm sure he prepared, and he'll say he prepared well, but I'm sure he didn't prepare thinking, oh, Le'Veon Bell is gonna, because I could tell visibly he seemed kind of like, oh, is this motherfucker still here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there was a moment in there, I told you, I was like, I feel like he's kind of surprised that it's this hard. I felt like he almost seemed like, why haven't I gotten him out of here? Why is he not going down? Or something like that kind of clicked in his head at one point. Because he seemed somewhat visibly, I don't know, frustrated or confused, but it seemed like he felt something wasn't going his way to an extent. He wasn't checked out.
Hmm.
I think what I said to you, I think he thought it was going to be easier.
Yeah, probably. I mean, most people did. I mean, Uriah was a huge favorite. I think he was the biggest favorite on the card. I think he was a minus 500 or something crazy like that. He was a very big favorite. And most people I saw were talking about it. They expected Uriah to run over, and I'm sure he expected that too. But I told people, Le'Veon is not, he's trained for years. And he's not been an active fighter. But I'm sure he was going to come in with a good game plan. He did, and he did some good stuff. Like I said, I mean, I didn't pick him to win, but I thought, he could do some good things, and he ultimately did, Good win for Uriah. We'll see what happens next with him and possibly Jake. I don't I don't expect him to get the fight next, but like I said, who knows? I mean, I feel like right now, everything's up in the air in regards to Jake. So I feel like everything else past this point is just house money. Like beating Anderson Silva. Like you're just playing with house money at that point. So we'll see what happens. But time to move to the opening fight of the card. Chris Avila, Dr. Mike. Dude, this fight was
weird.
This was weird to me. Dr. Mike came out. I thought he looked good early. He was peppering Avila with some shots. He was sitting down on a couple of them, but he was landing clean. But he was kind of just going for like more of an activity approach. He wasn't really sitting down much. I was like, oh, is he trying to like? I mean, is he just trying to make sure he doesn't gas out or what? Well, he did gas out. And then he just had Chris Avila coming at him for 3 rounds straight, and he took some bombs, man. Like this was hard to watch at times in the 4th round. What do you think about the fight, man?
It was rough, man. It was rough. By the way, Chris Avila like pushing Dr. Mike at the face-off. You know, a lot of times we're like, yeah, that was probably the most unnecessary push ever in a face-off I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Avila was just trying to hype it up, and I thought he did a good job because I think maybe Avila was just irritated with because I feel like Dr. Mike got a lot of love from the people during fight week, and I felt like Avila was kind of just like a guy out there, you know what I mean? And I think he probably took that out on him because he fought determined, man. I mean, for as much as Chris Avila's like an interesting guy. He's a good interview. He comes to scrap, but he's never really shown any trademarks of being like coming out of the Diaz camp. Like his jiu-jitsu's never looked great. His striking's never looked great. He's not very active. His gas tanks never looked great. But it seems like, dude, obviously he was facing a guy who's only 1-0 as an amateur boxer. And I understand that Dr. Mike's apparently been doing this for a while, but like he showed the levels, dude. Like he was landing at will. He was landing huge shots. Interesting that it does show to me that like, weight classes matter, man. Like, Chris Avila normally fights at 145, and Dr. Mike, like, had to cut down to 187 or whatever. Like, and Avila weighed, like, 180, and he beat the shit out of him, but he couldn't even knock him down, so very interesting. But yeah, man, solid win by him. Any other thoughts on this card in general before we move on to UFC?
Nothing in specific, man. I mean, it ended up being kind of what I expected in a way, like as a whole. I didn't think I'd come out with a lot of surprises, but credit to everybody. I mean, good performances all around, entertaining as hell. I just really want to know what's next for Jake. I feel like this is we kind of had this conversation before, like what way does he go? Is there a clear path? But we kind of had more names in mind. Where here, I feel like we really don't have a lot of names in mind at all.
Honestly, it's interesting because there's only the one name, and it's really just Nate. But like,
and Tommy,
yeah, and Tommy. But I feel like most people don't know about the fact that like Nate has that issue with the not that specific issue because that's like UFC can enforce that on anybody. They just rarely choose to. So that's what makes things interesting. And I'm like, there's a very good chance that Nate stays in the UFC. Like, I'm
surprised they want to keep Nate so badly.
It's because he's such a huge name, and I think they're aware that, like, every time one of their guys, either, maybe they believe this. I mean, I've frankly always been in the middle on this subject. They think it probably just makes the UFC look bad whenever Jake Paul knocks out or beats their, like, former legends, you know? I don't think it's a big deal, but in some people's eyes, they probably think it makes the UFC look bad. I'm sure that's probably what the UFC thinks as well. That's probably the only reason they'd match it. Plus, he's just such a huge star, and keeping him around for that Conor fight would be huge. The Conor trilogy. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, man. But time to move on to UFC. UFC Vegas 63 did go down from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada last Saturday. Started a little bit early, as it seems like because they didn't want to compete with the J card. This one, pretty solid night of fights, man. In the main event, Arnold Allen gets the biggest win of his career by TKO, defeating Calvin Kattar. Second round TKO. Calvin hurt his knee in the final 30 seconds of round one. He went for a flying knee, and it looks like he just landed awkwardly. And then Arnold Allen swarmed him. Kattar did good to get out of the round. But round two, Arnold Allen came and started chopping away the leg, ended up getting a TKO win. Biggest win of his career? What'd you think?
I mean, look, for the little bit we got to see, I thought Arnold looked great. I thought he was doing some good stuff. Obviously, the injury occurred, and it was heartbreaking, right? You never want to see fights end because of injuries, and look, there's, in a way, I heard someone say this, in a way, Arnold's movement caused the injury, because he got it out of the way, and the way, and it caused it to happen, and the way he landed and all that. But look, it's one of those, there was nothing that could have been done to stop it,
Mm-hmm.
It sucks, but I mean, I guess good for Arnold. Obviously, sucks for him. I thought he looked good for the little bit we got to see. It looked like he had the right idea, and he capitalized on moments and capitalized on the injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same page. I thought he looked good prior to the injury, and obviously ended up getting the finish. Moving forward, what do you think is next for Arnold Allen, man? The featherweight division's in a very, very strange place, to put it lightly. Obviously, we have our guy Volkan obviously moving up to challenge Islam Makhachev. Josh Emmett's coming off a win. He wants a title shot. I think, well, he has a lengthy winning streak, but a couple of those fights have he's been inactive due to injuries. He's had a lot going on. And then his last fight was a very controversial win over Calmacator. Yair Rodriguez, similar situation, not very active, only has a 1-fight winning streak, and that win was over an injured Brian Ortega. I mean, this division's in a really weird place. I don't want to say bad, but in just kind of a weird place right now. What do you think is next for Arnold Allen? Do you think he's done enough to deserve a title shot?
It's a tough spot, man, because he hasn't gotten to beat a lot of the top guys yet. And look, he's well deserving of having some sort of opportunity against some big name. I think the division needs to have an interim title if Volk's going to be gone, because one, he's not going to defend the title next. He's going to fight for another title, and he's going to be out after that fight. So he'll be out for most of next year, I'm assuming. And then he has to do a camp after that. So we probably won't be seeing Volk until late next year back at 145.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that time, they should make an interim title. My only issue is I feel like the three main guys are Yair, Josh Emmett, Arnold Allen. I almost hope in a way Arnold and Yair fight because they're both coming off injury wins. Mm-hmm. And then bam, one of those guys fights Josh Emmett, interim title.
That does make sense. I
mean, there's a lot that has to happen there, but I feel like, one, the matchmaking's great there. Yair's an action guy. Arnold Allen, on a crazy win streak. Obviously, Josh Emmett has to wait. Unless they just want to do a straight up Josh Emmett, Yair now, and then Arnold Allen. But it's kind of weird because why are they going to defend the interim title? You know what I mean? Like, it's a weird spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I personally feel like they should probably just do Arnold Allen versus Emmett, honestly. I mean, I understand that Yair deserves credit in some regard for his win over Ortega, and he deserves some credit for testing Max, but does an injury stoppage win deserve even an interim title shot over a guy who's Josh Emmett, what, a 5-fight winning streak? Arnold Allen, he's up to a crazy number at this point. I
think it's 10. Something.
Yeah, 10-fight win. So you're telling me that one injury victory? I don't get that. I think they should do an interim title, but I don't see why Yair is a part of it whatsoever.
By the way, I want to clarify: 10 in the UFC, 12 with his two fights prior to coming to the UFC.
There you go. Yeah, I don't see in any regard why Yair is a part of the conversation. Yeah, I mean, they should just do, and I think it's kind of stupid because Dana said they're not going to do an interim title, but they lie all the time. If they need
it doesn't make sense. I mean, Volk's not going to fight at 145 until very late next year, and that's a fact.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because this is the only time where it, not the only time,
and he's fine with it. He's perfectly fine with it.
Yeah,
which adds complete justification.
He's actually said that he'd kind of like it because it would give a storyline. It would make people intrigued that there'd be another champion. It would cement a number one contender for him. And Dana's no, fuck that. I expect
for idiotic. I'm gonna be honest. I think this is one of the most comfortable situations where interim title makes the most sense. And we've talked about this before on the show.
Yeah, it's just so bizarre because when's he gonna? I mean, he won't even be back until probably
a year from now. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because I mean, they said that they want to do the fight in February in Perth, but that's a really quick turnaround for Makhachev, and who knows if
Makhachev is down though, and he needs to do it before Ramadan.
Well, yeah, he says he's down, but people say shit all the time. Like,
but I'm telling you, let's say, the set, they fight in Perth, whatever, right? February it goes down. Okay. Hypothetically, win or lose, I mean, it's still going to be like a few months after that of a break, which would lead into what do we want to say? March, April, May, around, after, it would take more than March and April to recover. May, they talk about it. I'm sure they start talking about it. Fight camp goes down. I mean, until late next year, we're talking August, September type around time, maybe July. Who knows, right? I mean, it depends a lot. There's no injuries, nothing like that. And then if the other guy of the interim title would be ready to at that time, which is another thing.
Exactly.
And whenever they would do the interim fight next year, there's a lot to it. So that's what I'm saying. They have to make one. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and the UFC always jumps on board with doing this sort of thing normally. So it's kind of strange that they're like, nah, man, and I honestly do think that there will be an interim title. I just don't think that they've, started that process yet. I think there will be an interim title. Let's be honest, dude. The UFC struggles to find good pay-per-view headliners as it is. Just by virtue of, champions not being the most active. So I think they're going to throw an interim title to someone. I think either Allen, Yair, or Emmett. Some variation of those three will be fighting for gold, and I expect that to happen early next year. And I'd be down for it. But it's probably a bit time to go ahead and move on to the co-main events, which was a banger. Max Griffin defeating Tim Means, split decision for some reason. 29-28, 28-29, 30-27 being the scorecards. I thought this was a pretty clear win for Max Griffin. I said it last week. I think he's kind of in that space right now where he knows he's getting older. He's maximizing his potential. He's trying to make one last run at it. Well, they still can, and he moves to 4 out of 5, won 4 of his last 5 fights. That one loss being a split decision in Magny. What do you think about the win? What do you think about the scorecards as well?
This was an interesting one for me. I thought Tim Means did some solid stuff off his back as being offensive. I'm not gonna fight for this one. I'm not gonna die on the sword for this one, but I did feel some type of way about it, but I'm not gonna argue for it a lot.
You thought Tim Means won?
No, not necessarily. I just thought he had, I don't know. I feel like there's somewhat of an argument, but I'm not going to argue that Tim Means won the fight. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I just, it's not one of those things I'm going to fight for. Not in this situation.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I thought Tim Means did some good work. I just thought that Max clearly deserved the win. Yeah, man. I mean, very solid fight though in terms of just being an entertaining fight. I thought it was a lot of fun. And ultimately, like I said earlier, he moves into 4 out of his last 5. And yeah, I'm sure he's going to get a big fight next, man. I mean, he's a guy that's 36 years old. He's been in the UFC for 6 going on 7 years now. And I think he's putting it all together in a way that's being very entertaining. So we'll see what happens next with Max Griffin. Tim Means, the Dirty Bird will be around long after we're all dead. I feel like he's going to be one of those guys that's just in the UFC forever. I mean, he's been in the UFC since 2012? Yeah, 2012. He left for a little bit, then came back. So going on 10 years, and he doesn't seem to be slowing down. I understand he lost to Kevin Holland, but that fight was fun. This one was a split decision and also a very fun fight. So I'm not worried about Tim Means. But as far as the rest of the card goes, man, what are some fights you're most wanted to talk about?
I mean, we got to talk about it, Josh. Tresean Gore with a submission win over Josh Fremd. I mean, I told you. I was like, come on, Josh. Gotta give my man some credit. And I knew he'd be back. I'm happy he brought it back hard with a big win, a submission nevertheless too. Because that Cody Runners loss was rough, man. I mean, he got finished in it. It was hard to see. We like the guy a lot. He's 1-2 in the UFC now, but he just got a big win, which he needed because he definitely didn't want to go 0-3 in the promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, good for the 28-year-old out of South Carolina. I love his story. He's always a great interview, and I feel like a lot of people like him a lot.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I like Tresean. That was not really a question, but I did think he was going to lose this one. But this was a very solid performance by him. And, yeah, getting back in the win column was huge, because if he lost this one, probably going to be cut. So,
he got a little bonus too, so must feel pretty happy about that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm happy that he went ahead and was able to go ahead and pick up a win here. Also happening on the main card. Gotta go and get your thoughts on this one. Khalil Roundtree defeating Justin Jacoby by split decision, 29-28, 28-29, 29-28. Very controversial one here. Most people seem to believe that Justin Jacoby earned the win. In the end, he ends up losing his lengthy win streak, one of the low key lengthy win streaks going on in the UFC, and probably going to lose his ranking as well. So, what do you think about this one?
Well, let me tell you, as of right now, he's not lost his ranking because he's still, apparently as of right now, still ranked 13th.
No, well.
Yeah, apparently the UFC didn't think that he lost that either. I thought he won the fight. I thought that was that one was a very puzzling one to me. I thought he won the first 2 rounds, lost the last one. I'm not gonna. I mean, and I'm not gonna. I don't know, man. This is. I think the judges really dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was a bad decision.
Only one person got it right, and it's Ron McCarthy, aka Big John's son.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty bad decision. Yeah, man, I don't got too many thoughts on it. I mean, it's just, we have, I feel like, one bad decision a week, and this is the bad decision of the week. I feel really bad for Justin Jacoby. This is a guy that is 34. He was making a run at it. Never seemed to get respect from the UFC. He had to put together like a 7 7-fight unbeaten streak just to be ranked at the bottom half of 205, which is one of the worst divisions of the UFC. They just never give him respect. And now he loses by a split decision. It's frustrating. He will be back though, and hope to see him get a big matchup next. On the undercard, dude, Roman Dialize killed Phil Hawes, and
Bro, I can't believe. Look, I saw that Phil was the favorite. I'm like, dude, Roman Dialize, guys, like, come on. Like,
yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying no disrespect to Phil Hawes, but I saw a lot of people picking Phil. I think he was the favorite on a few like pick sites that I go on, and I'm like, I don't think this is gonna go well for Phil Hawes. I didn't know it would go like that though. Don't get me wrong, but very impressive win there. Nice finish out of him.
Yeah, man, it was very surprising. Not in terms of, Roman Dialize winning, but him just murdering Phil Hawes was surprising. Phil Hawes is a very good fighter, but he's still he's still in such a weird place, man. And I don't know if he's ever going to figure it out because he's 33 now. So we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, overall, solid win by him, Roman, I mean. And another big fight that, like, I didn't see anybody talking about was Marcos Rogerio de Lima taking on Andrei Arlovski. Arlovski on, like, a super low-key 4-fight winning streak. Just keeps on winning fights, and probably should have lost to Jake Collier, but he probably should have beaten Augusto Sakai and Walt Harris on the card. So, I mean, he's had some bad decisions over the last few years as well, going in the opposite direction. This one did not leave in the scorecards. Marcos Rogerio de Lima drops him and gets the sub in round 1. Got a feel for Arlovski, but I'm sure he'll be back. What do you think about that one?
I mean, by the way, Arlovski's only 3rd submission loss in his whole fight career.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, he's 43. He's older, man. I mean, look, he's bound to get caught, and he snuck one out in the Jake Collier fight. I don't think he was the favorite going into this one. I knew that it was a possibility he could lose Marcos Rogerio de Lima, and so, like a lot of Josh, kind of hoping for Arlovski to get another one. Keep it going, baby. But
I know.
I knew it could only last so long, man.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, he's been having this incredible Cinderella run. I mean, I understand, like, he's not getting, like, a title shot or anything, but he said, like for the last year or two since he's been on this win streak, he's like, yeah, like, I know that it doesn't seem realistic, but I'm still fighting for gold, man. I'm not going anywhere. And then you just kept on winning fights, and you're like, oh, shit, he's still hanging around, man. I mean, like, what? Like, he had the 4-5 winning streak and, like, won 6 of his last 7 with the 1 loss being to Aspinall. I mean, he's doing some crazy shit, man, and it sucks that he lost here, but I think he'll be back. I think he's one of those UFC lifers. At least I hope he is. It'd be a damn shame to see him cut, but yeah,
By the way,
yeah, go ahead.
The math real quick. How many fights do you think Andre has in the UFC alone?
Do I think he has?
Yeah, how many fights do you think he has in the UFC?
Wins or just fights?
Just total fights in the UFC.
Oh man, I'm gonna go this is just a guess. 42.
He's at 39.
Damn. Okay.
That's a lot. That's a lot of fights in the UFC.
Yeah, that is. Although he's done an incredible job. He took so much damage in the first half of his career, but like the last, I don't know, 10 fights, he hasn't really taken much damage at all.
Yeah, he's not getting blasted out of there, which is a nice thing to see, especially at heavyweight, where it can happen like very regularly.
Yeah, exactly. So he's doing a good job in terms of avoiding taking big damage. But yeah, that sucked to see. But solid win by Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He's a guy that's older, but like, I think he doesn't really get the credit he deserves for being like a really entertaining guy. Like, he's been in the UFC since 2014. He's gone to decision 3 times from what I can see. So yeah, fun dude. Also undercard, we gotta go and talk about our boy Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper loses by first round TKO to Steve Garcia. The first real time that we've seen Chase Hooper get just fucked up. Like, I feel like we see that happen to most fighters at some point in their career. This was his time. Most people online kind of losing their minds about this one, about how rough it was. And is Chase for the UFC? What do you think, man? I mean, I thought the reaction to this fight was a bit over the top. I thought he just went out there and got caught earlier. I mean, he's coming off of, he knocked out Felipe Corrales in May. So I thought it was a bit of an overreaction to this one, but what do you personally think?
I mean, it was rough, man, obviously, but look, he is far from a complete product, I think. I mean, that is a fact. And he's 20 years young. He just started filling out his frame again. I feel like he's still not even done with it. I don't necessarily think he's going to grow more, but he's not fully a man yet, which is, I mean, that's just a fact. And we've seen it. We were talking before the podcast about guys who came into the UFC these like Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, and we saw how the start of their careers went and how, where they're at now. I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, Chase has like 18 fights, like if you include his amateur fights. I mean, he's fought a lot for a young guy. And obviously the level and everything, all that. And look, he's won at this level. He's won in the UFC. So he's definitely somewhat UFC caliber. He's 3-3. Not bad for a 23-year-old. Look, everybody's different. Not everybody could be fucking Muhammad Makayev. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody's going to have a different road there. And obviously, like I said, his build too is another thing. He just started filling out. I think he needs to improve his striking a lot still. But look, Steve Garcia said it. Me mentioned himself. He's like, he did tag me up there a little bit. So it's just like patching up, working. I mean, the one thing about this sport, Josh, that I think doesn't get talked about enough is that you're always learning. Mm-hmm. You're always learning. You're always learning about situations. You got to think about your positions in wrestling, positions in jiu-jitsu, positions against the cage, stand-up exchanges. All of that. You're always learning. I think that's the one beautiful thing about MMA, that guys are always having to evolve and grow. Those who choose to, right? There's obviously the guys who just come out and fucking bang, you know?
Yeah.
And they just roll with it. Whatever they have to deal with, they'll do it. But it's really one of the, I don't think people realize how much thinking goes into fighting. And it's quick thinking. Mm-hmm. But, just give him time. He's going to take time off. I mean, there's nothing wrong with him taking off most of the year right now at this point in his career. He's in the UFC. And granted, money's a thing, right? So we don't know about his financials and all that. I mean, that's obviously a different question. I mean, if he has to fight, he'll have to fight. But, I mean, he's learning on the job still, you know, and that's part of the process. And I think that's one of the things in MMA that especially if you're a young guy in the UFC, you're probably going to always be in that learning process. And there's older guys who might have smaller records than you who could be fucking monsters that you don't expect. Mm-hmm. And it's not like they're throwing him at the wolves. They're kind of keeping him still like at a good level, matching him up pretty well. They're doing the right thing, I still believe. But I mean, he did have some rough fights in there, like Alex Caceres. I mean, and that's during the Alex Caceres run leading up to getting ranked, you know. So
yeah,
he did get a little unlucky there. But after that, he got a win over Peter Barnett, a heel hook. The Steven Peterson was rough, but he got out of that.
Peterson missed weight though, and fought a little bit dirty in that one.
Yeah, fought a little bit dirty.
Touch, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, you know, there was a lot to it. Chase is a really nice kid, so it was kind of like, damn, why you being kind of a douche? But
that's who he is, though.
That's who he is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys paid any attention to him. I don't know why you would. It's Steven Peterson, but it's just how he is.
And Chase has been active. You know, he fought he fought 2 times in 2020, regardless of COVID. He fought 2 times last year. He's fought 2 times this year. He's going to fight again next year. So
yeah.
He's far from the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you went and put it like that. Yeah, I thought there was such a huge overreaction. I mean, I saw people being like, you know, Chase has got to get out of the UFC. He's got to go back to the. I'm like, dude, like,
he's gonna fuck up people in the regional scene.
He lost 1 fight to a guy, Steve Garcia, who's like, he's a good veteran. He's won in the UFC. He's won by knockout in the UFC. Like, he's a former Bellator guy. He came off the contenders. Like, he won in the contender series. He's a good veteran. And he comes out of Jackson. He caught Chase early. That happens. Like, that's fighting, dude. Like, it doesn't mean Chase has to go back to the regionals. It doesn't mean he's not good in the UFC. Like, he's 3-3. He just beat Felipe Corrales by knockout back in May. And Felipe Corrales is a good dude. And Chase looked good on the feet in that one. It just happened that Steve Garcia is an early starter who comes out firing early. Most of his wins come by early finish. So that's what happened here. Like, that's fighting, dude. Like, I don't know what people expected. But, yeah, I mean, Chase Hooper will be back. I'm not worried about him. And he'll be okay. Like, he'll be all right, guys. Like, really,
I think Chase just wasn't ready to weather the storm that quick.
No, and that was always the question of this fight. Like, if you know anything about Steve Garcia, if you've seen him fight in the past, he's a guy who comes out and he swings and bangs. And most of his wins come by finish, and most of them come by early finish in rounds 1 or 2. So, yeah, I was not shocked at all that he lost. So, I mean, he'll be back, man. Like, it's really not, obviously it's not a great position to be in, but sometimes you get caught, and Chase Hooper got caught. Does not mean he's a bad fighter, does not mean he's not meant for the UFC, yada, yada, yada. But that's what I saw a lot of takes last Saturday. So, regardless, any other thoughts on the rest of this card before we move on?
Nothing specific, man. I felt like that was the main topic coming out of that, and it was just because of that whole situation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, I agree. Overall, though, it was a solid card, man. It's a pretty fun card. Not a lot of people were talking about it going into it. And obviously the main event was kind of a bit of a downer, but overall still a fun night of fights.
I mean, Josh, we did go from, we went from, Arnold Allen Cavalcade to Edson Barboza, Elliott, which are drastically different matchups, And obviously the way it ended up panning out, too, which was rough.
Yeah, true. That's the way it goes, though. Time to move on to this weekend's event, which is, it's not going to break ratings on ESPN, but overall, I like this card, man. I like a lot of the names on this. The main event, which was actually endangered up until this morning, Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Lemos. The women's strawweights getting a main event. You gotta hope that Marina Rodriguez, if she wins here, she'll finally get a title shot. But Amanda Lemos, this is a good fight for her, man. She's right back in a position where she can fight for a title shot. Obviously, she lost earlier this year to Jessica Andrade in a fight where you kind of wondered if she won, she might get a title shot. And now she's in a position here again where if she wins, she's right back in it. She really benefited from obviously Bryce Mitchell and Movsar Evloev. There's the headline of this event that fell out. Now this fight has a bigger shine on it. What do you think about this fight, man? And who do you picking?
I mean, it's a great matchup, right? I mean, Marina Rodriguez, we've been talking about her in the title, picture for a minute now. It seems like taking on Amanda Lemos, former title challenger, and matchup itself. I think it's a fun one. I think 5 rounds benefits Marina incredibly well. I mean, she has a style for 5 rounds. Amanda, at times, we've seen her kind of blow her wad early and kind of slow down a little bit, but I wonder if she's going to be a little bit more measured, kind of be conscious about that, now that she's learned a little bit now from being around a little bit, and getting ready to fight 5 rounds, previously. Or not, wait, did she fight I thought she did fight for the title. I guess I was mistaken.
She did not fight for the title, no.
No, who am I confusing her for? Someone else.
Talia Santos, maybe?
Nah, I don't know. For some reason I thought she was going to fight her, or she was about to fight for the title at some point.
If she beat Andrade, she probably would have fought for the title. I think that's
maybe what I was thinking. Because Andrade ended up fighting for the title after that, right?
No. Andrade had just fought for the title when she fought Lemos. But the thought process was as if Lemos beat Andrade, she was going to get a title shot.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I just looked at her right now. God damn, I didn't realize how active Andrade had been.
Yeah, she's super active. Well, she's fighting Lauren Murphy in January too, I think.
Yeah, no, I just saw that. Holy
Which is
shit.
a banger, by the way.
Yes.
Very excited for that fight.
But yeah, to kind of reel it back in, like I said, I feel like 5 rounds benefits Marina really well. I heard someone say that Marina, in a way, very different than the spiritual embodiment of Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Obviously not the Muay Thai background, but different. I mean, she could fight at range very well and effectively. And with Amanda, I mean, she's got some solid power. She gets in there, she could get a finish, man. I think it could go either way. I'm gonna rock Marina. I think the 5 rounds benefits her very well. I think she could fight a very safe fight and avoid the big shots and maybe take Amanda to deep waters and maybe tire her out a little bit and potentially maybe some late finish, but I doubt it.
Mm. Yeah, that's where I'm at too, dude. I think that this fight being 5 rounds, honestly, if it were 3 rounds, I'd probably pick Amanda Lemos, but it is 5. Yep. And Marina Rodriguez has 5-round experience, and like, I expect her to deal with some problems early. But I think Marina Rodriguez, I've become like a big fan of her over like her current win streak. Not because she's winning fights, but because she knows that, like, let's be honest, she deserved a title shot a while ago. But guess what? She's not complaining. She's not saying anything. She's like, all right, I'm going to beat every single woman until I get my fucking title shot. Like, that's her approach. And I respect that, dude. I mean, we'll talk about Beneil Dariush soon. In the news section, he's doing the same thing. He's like, you know what? I'll fight whoever I need to. I'm going to be a champion. It doesn't matter what time I get there. I'm winning that belt, and that thing's going to be mine, and I'll beat whoever I need to get it. It doesn't matter how many people. Marina Rodriguez is doing the same thing. I think she gets the win here, and I think she will fight the winner of Carlos Barza versus Wei Li Shang, which is going down next week, right? Like, that's when that fight's next week on 281? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Sweet.
Holy shit, I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Yeah, so they're perfect timing for Marina Rodriguez to go out here and get a big win. If Amanda Lemos wins, I guess they'll give her a title shot, but like, I mean, there's kind of nobody else left around, I believe. Like, it's kind of just Marina Rodriguez who's just been waiting for like ever. Like, I don't think there's any other big contenders of women's 115 right now.
She'd be very clear if she won.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they would give it to Lemos, but I don't know.
I mean, but Jessica Andrade's like right there in the rankings too, but she's fighting Lauren Murphy up.
Yeah, so she's doing the 125 thing. I mean, Yan Xiaonan's there, but like she had a losing streak before, and then that Mackenzie Dern fight was controversial, so I don't know. Yeah, I guess regardless, they're probably hoping Marina Rodriguez wins here. Now that I'm thinking about it, they've not wanted to give her a title shot, but if she doesn't win, they have nobody else to give the title shot to. So you gotta hope for Marina Rodriguez to win if you're the UFC. Yeah, and I do think she will get the win. But this fight actually nearly fell out. Got an important thing to watch. Another thing to watch for Amanda Lemos. She's just now leaving Brazil. I think she may even be leaving later tonight. Because the Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro, who, funnily enough, is supported by, like, pretty much all Brazilian MMA fighters, like, every single one. I think Verna Jandiroba is the only one who did not support him.
What's going on down there? I didn't get the whole picture, if you could explain.
Okay, so essentially, and I don't care who this upsets, because, like, if you get upset about this, like, come on, dude, like, come on. Jair Bolsonaro is essentially, like, their president of Brazil, and he was up for re-election, and he's essentially, like, he's like Trump on steroids, to give a comparison. He's like, yeah, like, I am homophobic. If I had a gay son, I'd probably try and kill him. Like,
holy fuck.
Yeah, he's like, I am a sexist. Like, he's like, he'll come out and say it. He's like, women should get paid less than the men. Like, I do not care.
Is this Sean Strickland?
He's essentially Sean Strickland. Yeah, he's a former, like, military guy. And then he's talked about, like, yeah, like, I support a dictatorship. If we just didn't have elections anymore, I support that. So whenever he lost, there was talk that he will not, he'll essentially try and do what, Trump did and not concede and say that it was rigged or whatever. I still don't think he's made an announcement if he will concede or not. So right now there's been riots in Brazil because his people are, his supporters are rioting, and the police, which are on Bolsonaro's side, have been like
brutal.
Yeah, they've been brutal. So yeah, that's why she's been unable to leave the country until now, I think. And there's been a couple of other fighters on the card as well who struggle with that problem.
I wonder how this will affect the Brazil card, man. I mean, I know we're kind of far from that, but I mean,
well, I think by January this will probably be figured out. If Jair Bolsonaro actually concedes and it does not try to do the oh my god, I didn't win, it must be rigged, doing like the dictator playbook, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah, no way to tell. But anyways, the co-main event, which like I said became the main event, is an excellent fight. Neil Magny taking on Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez. D-Rod's just coming off of that fight in September where he beat Li Jingling very controversially, riding a 4-fight winning streak, and he's taking on Neil Magny. I know that both these guys are called for this fight in the past. Very, very good fight, man. I think this is very, very big. Neil Magny trying to get back on the right track after he lost the shot clock. Rodriguez trying to break into the top 10. What do you think about this one?
I mean, look, this fight has a lot riding for both these guys. I mean, Neil, longtime guy in the rankings, been holding it down for a while now. D-Rod, same age as him or a little older, might be, I know they're similar in age, but just now getting into the rankings now and into UFC not very long ago. I mean, he needs to stack these wins, to the extent as fast as possible because, I mean, he has a very short clock all the time. You know what I mean? Doesn't have a lot of time running. He's had some injuries too, which we know in the hands. You can't be a fighter without no hands, you know? So, there's a lot of stuff there. And, I mean, matchup wise, I mean, great. I'm curious to see what Neil does. I mean, he always, he's a great competitor. We know that. And tough fight last time out. I mean, against a killer. I mean, the guy's finished everybody he fought and he finished him. So, yeah. And he knew that very well going into that. And I'm curious to see how he's able to deal with D-Rod. Is he going to try to like press him against the fence, slow him down, put some pressure on him, fight at distance? And D-Rod, how's he going to deal with Neil Magny and Neil Magny having a great gas tank and maybe, constantly being on him, maybe trying to slow him down or moving constantly and not getting touched? Because, we know D-Rod has some power, man, and I'm curious to see if he's able to open up Neil Magny and get through with some big shots and get to victory in that capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think this fight is very, very interesting in terms of, I wonder what Neil Magny's approach is going to this one, because we really haven't seen. We saw D-Rod wrestling tested a bit by Kevin Lee, but Kevin Lee at that point in his career just gassed out after 5 minutes of doing anything, so we didn't really get to see him tested too much.
Well, the gas is not going to be an issue in this fight.
Yeah. Neil Magny is always there and always moving forward, so I'm not worried about that. I am going to go ahead and take Neil Magny. I can easily see D-Rod pulling this one off, but I think the quick turnaround, the fact that he is old, the fact that he's dealing with injuries, and we haven't really seen his grappling tested too much, I think Neil Magny's going to test that grappling on Saturday. I think he's going to get the win. As far as the rest of the card goes, man, it is a pretty solid card. Chase Sherman's back. He's coming off of that awesome knockout win over Jade Vanderaa. Taking on Josh Parisian on the main card. Interesting placement for that one. Grant Dawson, Mark Madsen should be a banger. Miranda Maverick, one of my top prospects in the UFC, taking on Shanna Young. Very exciting fight there. What are some fights you're personally most looking forward to?
Did you mention Mark Madsen versus Grant Dawson?
I did.
Okay,
go ahead and give your thoughts on that one.
You kind of blended it all in, so kind of I guess it flew over my head. No, I mean, this is an interesting one for me, dude, because Grant Dawson, for being 18-1, right? And look, I got to give credit to his opponents, right? That Leonardo Santos fight kind of worried me because I'm like, I feel like if you're at this level, if he's this, right there, should be damn near ranked, if not ranked by now. I don't know if guys like Leonardo Santos should be giving you trouble, but granted though, since then Leonardo has lost to Clay Guida, Jerry Gordon, but before that he had beaten guys like Stevie Ray, Adriano Martins, Kevin Lee, Anthony Rocco Martin, and leading up to that Grant Dawson fight, which Grant literally won last second. Cause let's be honest, that old man was beating the shit out of Grant Dawson.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how he deals with the rest of Marco Madsen. I'm curious to see if Marco Madsen shows another layer, gives some trouble, because I've said it, man, the Olympian, he kind of came a little late. You know what I mean? He's 38. He's not been as active as I feel like a guy who, at this point, who's made to UFC and has a skill set should be, because, I mean, his clock is limited. I mean, he's just turned 38. He's only going to be older next year. He'll be 39. He's not ranked. I mean, and he hasn't overly impressed me. I mean, obviously the wrestling's good. The strike is kind of no hate, but I don't know. And I think it's a tough fight for Grant. Mm-hmm. This is incredibly hard matchmaking here. But if he gets this win, though, I got to give credit to Grant Dawson. This is a fucking amazing athlete you're going up against. And if he's able to neutralize the wrestling, not get controlled on the round, and I'm sure James Krause is going to come in with an amazing fucking game plan. It's just going to be whether or not Grant can execute it and not have trouble. Because I want to see Grant not have these kind of like, okay, you're doing good, you're getting the wins, but I'm like, but are you top 15?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that fight's very, very interesting. I think they put it in a really good spot, opening up the main card. Because that's probably my most anticipated fight in the card, to be completely honest with you. Both these guys are very, very good, and they're both trying to break into the top 15. Grant Dawson has a lot of potential, man. I mean, I think he's only 28 years old, 18-1-1, coming off that big win over Jared Gordon. Mark Madson's going to test him, man. But Mark Madson's also 38, so, I mean, it's going to be an exciting fight, and I think they put it in a great place. Also in the undercard, really, really good fight. Derek Minner versus, I can't even pronounce this poor kid's name. And do you want to take a crack on that?
Let me see. Where's it at?
Derek Minner's taking on Shailen Nuradambike?
Nuradambike.
I think that's about as good as we're going to get.
I mean, that wasn't bad.
Yeah, these guys are going to kill each other, man. This fight is a banger, dude. Like, low-key, banger on the card. Derek Minner always comes to scrap. This kid is folks, he's only 28 years old. He's had 48 fights. He's 38-10. So, yeah, this kid's a savage. Very excited to see him fight. That's going to be one of the most entertaining fights on the card, in my opinion. Rest of the card, there's not, I mentioned Poliana Viana earlier. She's going to be taking on Jinyu Fry. That should be a fun fight. Mario Batista Benito Lopez should be fun. Jake Hadley is back. We'll see what he can do.
Can he make weight?
That's a big question.
I think he will. He should,
Probably. Didn't he make weight for his last fight and then lose?
I thought he didn't make weight for, no, it was on the Contender Series. It was on the Contender Series.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
He did not make weight in the Contender. He's got the contract and then lost to Alan Nascimento.
Yep.
So, yeah, we'll see. Overall, solid card. Not anything crazy, but should be a fun night of fights. Are you ready to move into the news, my man?
I am. Let's get it going.
All right. So, as a part of Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva, they had the boys, the normal Showtime team of, they had Mauro Ranallo, Al Bernstein, Ariel Helwani was doing commentary as well. Another part of the broadcast with George Rush St. Pierre.
Shout out GSP.
Look, man, GSP's not a dumb guy. If he was there for a reason. During a scrum with the media, I believe either prior to the weigh-ins, or it might have been after the weigh-ins. Regardless, he revealed a couple of things. He revealed that he's out of his UFC contract. We know that last year he tried to fight Oscar De La Hoya in an exhibition. And once again, he said that, hey, I would love to do an exhibition, maybe in a pro contest, depending on who the opponent is. And I'd like to do some jiu-jitsu competitions. He'd like to do this and that. Nothing too crazy. He's not pursuing championships. But on his combat sports career, he admitted, I'm probably not done. He's probably going to compete in something. What do you think about that, man? What do you think about him, attending the fight and being a part of the broadcast, and then also, obviously, him kind of stating, I'm going to do something. Don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something.
He's a lifetime martial artist, man. He loves this shit. He truly is he embodies the word martial arts, to put it quite simply. And I'm sure he's wanted to compete for a while and do some jiu-jitsu competition or one-off things, or maybe karate combat, because obviously he's part of that. Maybe do something with that and have some fun. Because that was his first thing, karate, if I believe so. When he was younger, did that because he got bullied, and I'm sure he's very passionate about that. And him coming out in his outfit all the time, his what was it called? It's not a gi. It's what's it called? Not a commode either, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Stuff like that. He's super passionate about that stuff, and I think that it's very sad that he didn't get those opportunities and he was prevented from them. And now he can maybe do stuff a little older, but he's fun. He's good about it. I'm sure he'll always come out and impress us and give us a good show, no matter what he does.
Yeah, for sure. I think GSP would fit in nicely. This little exhibition boxing thing, this kind of weird crossover thing that they've been doing. I think he'd fit in nicely to it, man. And I think, let's be honest here, The real fight is him versus Anderson Silva.
In karate combat, dude. I want that.
No, in boxing.
I would love to see him in karate combat, dude.
I would love to see him in karate combat. I don't think karate combat can afford GSP.
I mean, but GSP's been out there, and they've done things. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
maybe they can figure something out.
Maybe, but I wouldn't count on it. But I think we'll see GSP in some capacity.
One championship, Josh. Come on.
In one champion? No, yeah. All right, Shotri. All right. Them and their 8 billion viewers, dude.
Yeah, 8 billion. Holy fuck, dude. It just did a billion just appear out of nowhere?
Apparently, that's how many people.
A billion people.
That's how many people love one championship. If you disagree, I will sue you, Angel.
Okay.
I will sue you if you try and doubt my bullshit numbers.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, GSP will be back. It'll be fun to see. I'd like to see him in an exhibition or even just a jiu-jitsu competition. But speaking of guys who are out of the UFC, a guy that wants to be out of the UFC allegedly is Petr Yan. Obviously, he lost to Sean O'Malley. Lost in quotations, depending on who you are. At UFC 280 last month. And he's never come out and said anything publicly, but he said fuck the judges in an Instagram post. And I believe he tagged the UFC as well. Daniel Cormier, who works for the UFC commentator, obviously got his hand all over the fight game as a trainer and so on and so forth. He said that he's heard that Petr Yan may want to leave the UFC because it feels like the organization does not have his back. Obviously the UFC's done trades before. They traded Demetrius Johnson to one championship in exchange for Ben Askren. That worked out pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, one championship.
Yeah, right. Arjan Bhullar on Twitter said that, hey, he's the one heavyweight champion. He'd love to be traded for Petr Yan. First of all, what are your thoughts about that specific trade proposal? But what are also your thoughts about Petr Yan attempting to possibly exit the UFC after his loss to Sean O'Malley, and obviously prior to that, the split decision loss to Aljo?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think he will. I mean, I think this is just talk. You know what I mean? More than anything. Just words. No true actions will come from it, I believe. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe something could actually occur and there is a trade and he ends up going to Bellator or something. Who knows?
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I think...
Or PFL. I mean, who knows? Maybe they do a trade with PFL. Kayla Harrison? Question mark? No, I was kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at this point, I don't think Petr Yan's going to go anywhere, but, I mean, weird things have happened. I would have never expected Demetrius Johnson to leave the UFC after losing to Pseudo. I remember that everybody thought, like, oh, yeah, obvious trilogy coming next. And then one day we just saw the news. Oh, yeah, never mind. Like, it's going to one championship. So weird things have happened, but I don't see anybody. The previous one UFC trade worked so well because people knew Ben Askren because not only was he like a former champion in one, he's a former champion at Bellator. He had back and forth with Dana White over social media, so the UFC fans knew who he was. Joe Rogan hyped him up all the time. That's not the case with anybody else under the one championship roster. So I don't think this one will happen, but we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe Bellator comes in. Could you imagine? No, that's a joke.
I feel like Dana rather shoot himself than ever do a trade with Bellator.
Yeah, I think Dana has, and I wonder if it's because Scott Coker used to work for Strikeforce and he just still holds like a grudge. But yeah, he refuses to acknowledge Bellator. He's acknowledged one in the past. They obviously did the trade, and even whenever they've acknowledged PFL, like they've just never acknowledged that Bellator exists, which is kind of funny. Considering how many times they have, I mean, it's the number.
The only time they ever did was for Chandler when they announced him, I think, in his title fight where they said he was a former Bellator champ.
Yeah, I think that's it. So,
which was even a surprise to the people. I mean, people were surprised that they did that.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll see what happens, man. We will see what happens. Time to move on. We mentioned this guy earlier, Benny Dariush. Obviously, he was gonna be the backup fighter for UFC 280, and then he wasn't. And he was going to get a win with a title shot until he wasn't. And I feel like Benny Dariush he's been perennially kind of slept on, in terms of his win streak not really being valued by the UFC. Well, he said that he doesn't really care about that, honestly. He gave an interview recently with Morning Combat where he pretty much said, like, look, dude, I've been out of action for a while now. I'm going to fight and beat every single person I need to beat in order to make that happen. That includes Chandler, Poirier, Oliveira, Fiziev. Out of all those options, who would you like to see Beneil Dariush fight next?
I feel like timeline-wise, I feel like Dustin Chandler works out pretty well sometime next year.
Mm. Yeah, fair enough. I know that Dustin and Chandler both said that they would actually like title shots if they can, get a win over the other one.
I mean, why wouldn't they, right?
Yeah, exactly. But Islam's already said no chance. So it's interesting to see that Islam's pretty much, trying to make people work for a title shot, which is pretty ironic. But
Fiziev has been not mentioned in any sort of conversation as far as matchmaking.
Correct, which is weird. I feel like Fiziev Dariush would make sense, honestly. But
I mean, or they could do winner of Dustin Chandler fights Fiziev.
I think they got to make. I honestly think they should make Gaethje versus Fiziev, and I think it's weird that they haven't.
True, but I think Justin had a nose surgery.
That's true, but I feel like that fight makes the most sense. But
who knows? I mean, that's a banger, though. I mean, they put Fiziev at 3 if he wins. Gaethje goes down. Maybe. I mean, it depends if Chandler loses or Dustin wins, and he would maybe at worst go down to 4th or end up in 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Because Fiziev would be moving up. Chandler lost, and Chandler would go down. So, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst case scenario for them, but there's a lot of movement at 155. I mean, you got to think about it. There's guys like Drew Dober who are now ranked again at number 15. Tony Ferguson, who's 14, almost has out of the rankings. Dylan Hooker at 12 somehow. No hate to Dan Hooker, but it's been a little rough lately. Demir at 11, who needs some matchmaking to happen. Jalen Turner, who's in the rankings now, who's a name who gets no love now at 155.
0.
And then RDA, who's still ranked somehow in lightweight, but I'm sure they'll try to push him out eventually.
Yeah, sooner rather than later, I'd assume. Yeah, man. I mean, I think lightweight's in a weird position right now. If I were to go ahead and just on the subject of Beneil Dariush specifically, I'd like to see Benny versus Charlie Olives. I honestly would.
I'm down.
I think that'd be a really entertaining fight. Matchup wise, it probably makes them timing wise. Excuse me, that makes the most sense considering they both fought in UFC 280. So I think time wise and matchup wise, that makes the most sense. I think it'd be the most interesting fight. And I gotta give props, dude. Like I mentioned earlier with Marina Rodriguez, I like this sort of thing. I think whenever the UFC does not get title shots to people that deserve them, they have 2 routes to go. They can either wait around, or try and get an opportune matchup for them. Like, for example, like Gaethje, for some reason last year, really, really wanted a title shot. He thought he deserved to be in the vacant title fight, which had Charlie Olives and Michael Chandler. And he got really pissed off when he didn't, and he was talking about waiting out for a title shot until Chandler became available, and then he fought him and got his title shot because, that was a good matchup for him. Instead, you have guys like Beneil Dariush on the other end where he's like, I'm going to fuck up everyone. He's like, I'm going to do whatever. Obviously, Beneil does not talk like that. He would have gotten a title shot by now if he did. But, yeah, he's just willing to do whatever it takes, and I like that sort of thing. So we'll see what happens with him next. But gotta respect the fact that he is just...
He's a dog, man.
He's a dog, dude. You gotta respect that. But time to move on. Bantamweight title picture. Now, this is not really a news section. We're kind of just going to talk a little bit about some of the recent events, because Aljamain Sterling just defended his title, and he did it really without breaking a sweat, got the TKO win, and then and on the same card, obviously, Sean O'Malley defeated Petr Yan. Easy matchmaking. Those guys fought on the same card. They said it was going to be a title eliminator going in. Instead, Dana said, we're going to make Cejudo fight Sterling. Dana has not seemed to like any talk of Cejudo even coming back until now. And then there quickly were reports that the fight was going to happen on the undercard of Islam versus Volkanovski in February. And considering Cejudo has been doing nothing but sitting out, and Sterling didn't break a sweat, that seemed to make sense. Sterling said he won't be back until mid-2023. And that he's a champion and he can take the time off if he wants, and that he deserves it. And then Cejudo said that instead he's willing to fight Sean O'Malley for an interim title. If Sterling's really gonna go ahead and take all that time off. Angel, what do you think about all the moving and the shaking going on in the bantamweight division, and how would you solve this problem? If Sterling truly wants to sit out, and Cejudo is out there in the wings, and obviously Sean O'Malley just got a huge win, but nobody's talking about him anymore. What do you think?
I feel like this could be a negotiation thing with the UFC.
You really think so?
I think it could be. I think some stuff could have gone down between them.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense, but in terms of
And on top
how
of
would
that,
you solve this? How would you solve this problem, Andrew?
well, look, I'm sure they probably came to look. What I think might have happened was I'm sure they came with him to Cejudo fight. There's like, this is when we want to do it. This is how much money we want to pay, and he was probably like, fuck that. I don't want that. We could I'll sit out for a bit and wait it out. And on top of that, Cejudo just re-entered the testing pool. Like, he finally got cleared. He did his 6 months or whatever. I feel like they probably wanted to get it going pretty quick. Probably didn't go the way they wanted to. Obviously, and Aljamain is. I'm thinking what's probably going to happen is the next fight. If he does fight Cejudo, this could probably be his last fight at this weight class, and then he'll move up to 145, opening the door up for his teammate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's possible as well. Right now, I feel like the UFC, and I think Aljo made a really interesting point, and I kind of agree with it. He pretty much said, like, it seems like Dana and the UFC really don't want me to be champion. Like, he's like, you know what? Like, they had me go and fight TJ, who really didn't deserve a title shot, but on paper was supposed to be a bad matchup for me. They hated Cejudo, did not want to have anything to do with him until I beat Dillashaw, and now they're going to give him the title shot despite the fact that Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan winner was supposed to get it. Seems like they really don't want me to be champion. And I agree with that. I feel like that's part of what this is, him going like, fuck you. I'm going to go and take my time off. You guys pretty clearly don't want to be champions, so I'm going to go and sit out for a bit, take my time off. I'm champion. Edge knocked out. Well, no, I didn't knock him out, but, TKO, former champion, one of the greatest of all time. I'm going to take my time. I feel like the UFC hates Aljamain Sterling enough to make an interim title. I really do think so. I feel like they did that and got for Ngannou, and Ngannou wanted to fight, who was he supposed to fight? He was supposed to fight Derek Lewis. Remember that? They're supposed to rematch. And,
so down for that. So
right?
sad that never happened.
Ngannou said, I'll be back September 2021, and I'm willing to fight then. And UFC decided to say, fuck you. If you're not going to fight in our timeline, we're going to make you sit out longer. So they had Lewis fighting Gane in August, the month before. And Gane said he'd be willing to fight. I can absolutely see them making Cejudo versus Sean O'Malley. Because let's be honest, they're wanting to make a big impact in Australia. I think Sean would take that fight. I know he said he wants to renegotiate his deal, but dude, like, if you're getting a chance at gold and a huge matchup on pay-per-view, and you're facing a guy, too, like, on paper, Cejudo is probably not the best matchup for O'Malley, but I feel like it's better than facing Sterling. And you're facing Cejudo who hasn't fought in, it'll be probably close to 3 years by the time that fight ends up happening. So
there's stuff that Sean could look forward to.
Exactly. So, I don't know what the UFC is going to do. But if I were the UFC, I'd just throw money at Aljo and have him fight Cejudo. But I know that they don't normally do that sort of thing. So yeah, I feel like this could be a pretty easy problem to solve if the UFC were willing to go ahead and play ball.
It's totally money.
It's totally money. Yeah.
It's totally money. I mean, because they want to fight Cejudo. I'm sure he was like, okay, you guys want to fight Cejudo? This is what I want to make.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
And it probably didn't line up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because let's be honest, that was going to be a fast turnaround.
I mean, yeah, to go from October to February, that's a pretty quick turnaround. That's a. And
then he would have to make weight again, which he's already talked about it being tough.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a bit of a quick turnaround, and even, the idea of having Cejudo go ahead and having his big comeback be set up that quickly just did not seem very feasible as well.
It's almost TJ Dillashaw-esque, in a way. Kind of different, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, man, I feel like this is a problem that could easily be fixed by the UFC if they just gave Aljamain Sterling money, but they don't. They hate doing that. So my prediction is that in March, we're going to see O'Malley versus Cejudo for an interim title. That is my prediction. And the reason why I'm saying March is because, gotta remember, I believe they are doing January Brazil, February Australia, March US pay-per-view. And that's the one where they're targeting John Jones' return.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but here's the issue.
March 4th, I see it in Vegas.
Here's the issue. We've been talking about a John Jones return for 3 years now. So, I'm not expecting it to happen. Even if it does happen, they're still going to want to put a big co-main event on that to intrigue people.
Look, at the end of the day, Josh, we can't even blame John because apparently it's not been on John.
Exactly. I don't blame John. I'm just saying, like, for whatever circumstance, all of the heavyweight division, Stipe, Ngannou, and Jones all have stuff going on. So I don't think it'll happen. But hey, even if it does happen, like I said, they're going to want to put a big co-main event on there. And dude, if you're having John Jones return, who's a perfect guy to put in that co-main event spot and get a lot of fucking eyeballs on him?
And Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, so.
Sugar Show, baby.
Yeah, that's why I think that if Aljo is serious and they don't figure out that thing, we're going to see an interim title made probably by the end of the month for March. That's my prediction.
How do you don't fuck with Cheeto and Sean O'Malley rematch?
I mean, look, for me, it just kind of defeats the purpose. I'm a big fan of if you're gonna say something, then do it. They said that Sean O'Malley would get a title shot if he beat Petr.
You're a man of principle.
I am a man of principle. I hate when the UFC does this shit. They spend the entire build up saying these guys, winner of this gets a title shot, and then it's, oh, wait a minute, I don't like who the champion is. Let me go ahead and find a terrible matchup for him, and then fuck over Sean. Like, no, like, Sean O'Malley went out there, he did his job, give him a title shot. Even if you don't like the result, you honor the fact that you said it was a title eliminator going in. I know that they say that shit all the time, and then they don't enforce it. I thought for Sean O'Malley, it'd be a guy that they'd enforce it with because he's such a big star, and they have a chance to shoot him into superstardom. And they're choosing not to do it. So I don't know. Like, I like the idea of a Marlon Vera versus Sean O'Malley rematch. That'll happen, but it does not need to happen next, is where I'm at.
True. You're very intelligent, Josh. You're so right.
You're goddamn right.
I'm such a fucking idiot. How could I be such a fucking moron? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, dude. But any other thoughts on this or any other thoughts on anything in MMA and boxing world before we close out?
No, I mean, I feel like we touched up particularly that topic very well. I mean, that's probably, it was very weird. I saw that video on Twitter just come out and I was like, what the fuck? Okay, Aljamain, this is weird. But but not talking about it and getting into it, I really do think it's a money thing for sure. When is it not about money? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Bantamweight's in an interesting place right now, but
and let me tell you, would you really be surprised if a few weeks we see Cejudo and Aljamain get announced that they have come to?
Not at all. I mean, the thing is, it all depends on how the UFC, if they're going to play ball. I think they're not going to, just by virtue of the fact that UFC, like, they don't seem to like Aljamain already. You know, so I expect them to not want to play ball. So that's just where I'm making that prediction.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, man, hope you guys enjoyed the show. I am at Josh Evanoff on Twitter. He's at Undertaker_01 at Courtside Soundoff for all things related to the show. Once again, incredible sponsors of the show, Rogue Energy and ELYXR. Go ahead and use code Soundoff at both those websites to get 10% off. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Peace and bug grease. Mouse click.